Kamen Rider Gaim is a very popular Kamen Rider series among the Western fanbase, being hailed as one of, if not the best series in the franchise. While it may not go that far considering it one of the best series, Gaim is still a very well put together and engaging ride. Series producer Naomi Takabe wanted Gaim to return to the early style of Heisei series, where multiple riders are featured in dramatic high-stakes battles. Takabe approached Gen Urobuchi, known for darker works such as Madoka Magica and Fate Zero, to serve as the series' main writer. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of those works, Gen is still a perfect fit for Gaim's initial goals, as Fate Zero and Madoka are all about characters conflicting with each other in a battle royale setting, which is exactly what Takabe wanted. As for the story Urobuchi and the producers crafted, Koto Kazuraba gets his hands on a belt to become Kamen Rider Gaim while looking for his lost friend Yuya. From there, things escalate from simple feuds to monster attacks to government conspiracies to the possible end of the world. I will now put a major spoiler warning because Gaim has lots of twists and turns that I want to talk about. I'll still keep some stuff vague, but I recommend watching the show before you watch this analysis if you're interested. Cool? Okay, so Gaim's narrative uses a lot of imagery straight out of the Bible and Christianity. The project to save humanity is called Project Ark, similar to Noah's Ark. There's a battle for a golden fruit of power and knowledge that a character, often called a snake, organizes. Hell, Kota becomes the man of the beginning at the end of the series. It's not that subtle, even as someone who didn't grow up or is Christian, but it does admittedly help the grand epic feel of the story, along with tying into the themes of the endless cycle of violence and the sins of man Gaim often presents. The Christian imagery could also be why Gaim is very popular among Western Kamen Rider fans, since Christianity is the most popular religion over in the West, but I still think Gaim has a lot of merit to it outside of this. For example, Kota's a great protagonist. While he's optimistic and headstrong, he has a lot of moments of doubt thanks to the many story events throughout the show. He doesn't always have the right answers to his situation and either needs some help or motivation or has to trust his gut. For example, when Kota finds out he unknowingly killed Yuya, he falls into heavy depression, but gets some motivation and a power-up from the snake which helps him confirm his ideals of breaking supposed rules to save everyone. Another great moment of Kota is when he's stuck in an illusion where the roles are reversed, with him being the monster. A villain keeps hammering it home to Kota that since he's going to become a monster's overlord, that he should just stop caring about human life and embrace the destruction. Kota starts to buy into it, but he ultimately trusts his gut and morals that no matter what happens to him, that he'll save the world. Speaking of saving the world, I've seen a lot of people dislike Kota for pissing off to another planet after the fight is done, and I'm just left wondering if they even paid attention to the show. Kota did this to save everyone and stop the battle for the golden fruit once and for all. He basically sacrificed his humanity to save the universe, which is what Kamen Rider is ultimately about at its core since 1971. This is why I don't understand comments that Gaim is not a real Kamen Rider. On the other hand, I really don't care for Mai. She doesn't make a good first impression by yelling at Kota to be better, which falls flat since Kota hasn't done much wrong. Other than that moment, I don't feel anything towards her. She has some good character building moments when she connects to Kaito, but other than that, she's just there to be moral support and later a symbolic representation of the golden apple the characters are fighting over. Kaito, aka Kamen Rider Baron, believes in relying on one's own strength since he thinks he was a weakling for not being able to stop the industrialization of Zawame City. Near the end of the show, when he sees the opportunity to become an overlord, he takes it in an attempt to make his ideal world. This might seem like an out-of-nowhere change for his character, since despite being a douche, Kaito did help people, but I think it's an interesting and natural twist for his character. Kaito hates the world, so if he had the chance to remake it in his own way, despite the consequences, he would probably take it. He's one of my favorite final bosses in Kamen Rider thanks to him and Kota having a rivalry of opposing ideals throughout the entire show, which makes their final battle hit even harder. Zack, aka Kamen Rider Knuckle, is a chill guy. He and Kaito have a great dynamic of their opposite personalities, with Zack occasionally looking to Kaito for advice till he strikes out on his own when Kaito becomes an overlord. He may not be as complex as other characters in this show, but Zack is still a fun guy. Michi, aka Kamen Rider Ryugen, is a lot. I used to think he was a great fallen hero that became a villain until the final episode, but then I read SocJusTrshMouth's Twitter thread on Gaim, which I'll link into the description, that brought up an interesting interpretation of Michi's character, that being he suffers from borderline personality disorder. I won't go into all of it here since I want you guys to read the thread on your own, but the cliff notes is that Michi sees things in very black and white, perfect or evil, which causes him to freak out when his friends start to disagree or question his beliefs. Michi has done a lot wrong, like a lot wrong, but Kota still gives him a chance to change, and he does eventually clean up his act. Michi did a lot of bad stuff in the show, no argument about it, but let's be honest with ourselves, we've all done things that have harmed both us and others, and we've learned to live with the consequences and make amends for it, just like Michi did. Takatora, aka Kamen Rider Zangetsu, is another one of my favorite characters in the show. He starts off seemingly as a mysterious evil guy, but then the layers unravel as we learn that Takatora actually wants to save the world, but he's been convinced by his cynical subordinates that it's impossible to save everyone. It gives the character this fascinating nuance, where he does all these seemingly evil little things, but it's all to prevent a larger evil from getting out. Junichi and Heisei, aka Kamara Gridon and Kurokage, start off as bullies, but then Heisei goes missing, which leads to Junichi seeking fighting advice from another rider. Heisei is a cocky bastard who doesn't give much development for being kicked out of the story early, but I do like that we got to see his suit again in the form of the Kurokage troopers. Junichi's story is more comedy focused than the others, but he still gets great emotional moments, especially in the series epilogue where he finds out what really happened to Heisei. Oren, aka Kamara Bravo, is a flamboyant old man elitist about artistic efforts. With the advent of digital platforms to let anyone be a breakout star, people like him that have trained for years in their traditional crafts have been getting less attention, so he becomes a common editor to show up the youngins. He's mostly a comic relief character, but he's pretty good in that role, especially thanks to the suit actor going nuts in his suit movements. Sid, aka Kamara Sigard, is a jerk. That's all I gotta say. He's a jerk that's fun to watch and gets one of the most morbidly funny deaths in Kamen Rider, but there's not much to him outside of being a jaded adult. Ryoma, aka Kamen Rider Duke, is a mad scientist who developed most of the rider equipment in this show. He's a very chaotic character, not just in his mannerisms, but his actions, especially in the later half of the show where his alliance to various characters are constantly being changed. Yoko, aka Kamen Rider Marika, is cool. I'm not happy about how her story ends, but she's still a pretty cool female character, which Kamen Rider has a hit and miss track record with. I like how she's mostly serious and no nonsense compared to her wacky or cynical co-workers. Her actress is also one of the few Kamen Rider actors to do both suit and face acting for her character stunts, which is really impressive. As for Gaim's visual aesthetics, they consist of locks, fruits, and Japan's Warring States period, otherwise known as the Sengoku era. The collectible gimmicks for this season are locks based on various fruits, which are sliced or juiced open by the belts, which is quite creative. My personal favorite part of the belts is how customizable they are thanks to the faceplates for different riders having various transformation chants and voices. In terms of suits, each of Gaim's riders are based off various warriors from all over the world mixed with whatever fruit they use to transform. Gaim is based off a samurai with his later forms representing a shogun, Baron is a European knight, and Ryugen is based on a Chinese soldier. This makes for a diverse lineup of fighting styles and designs that look very shiny and wonderful despite the seemingly silly fruit theming. While Gaim may not be my favorite series, I still like it a lot. While it does have many dark and cynical elements, I still find it keeps the hopeful elements that Kamen Rider is known for. Yeah, the world may be screwed up, which Gaim isn't afraid to show, but we can still change for the better even after we mess up. Sure, it is kinda overhyped, but you'll still find a great show despite overexcited fans who think it's the greatest thing since garlic cheeseburgers. And now to end this analysis, a dramatic reading of the Kamen Rider Gaim HBO copy pasta. Kamen Rider Gaim is the only Kamen Rider show that I wouldn't mind airing in America. It has enough depth, mature themes, and emotional weight to match a lot of quality shows airing here like Game of Thrones and The Wire, so I think it would fit right at home if it aired uncut and subtitled on a channel like HBO and Showtime. I also think it would be a spectacular series to bring over because I think it's the kind of series that can bring our cultures together. Disclaimer, I think this comment is not very good, I just read it because it's funny.